If we could ask everyone to start finding a seat, please. It's 8:31. We need to call the meeting to order, so if you could please start moving towards your seat, we would appreciate it. We will call this meeting to order. It is 8:32 a.m. on this March 15th, 2022. We will start, as usual, with our Chaplain Prayer, and Mr. Ralph Dawkins, Chaplain Dawkins, will come forward and please lead us in prayer and in pledges, if you don't mind.
Good morning. Let us pray. Father, thank you once again for the opportunity to invoke your word through prayer into this gathering of city officials, leaders, and concerned citizens. I pray that these city leaders, that you have given unto them the responsibility to watch over and lead our city in a way that will bring economic prosperity and produce jobs and revenue and help San Angelo to progress and grow. Father, your word declares that we should acknowledge you in all of our ways, and you would direct our paths. You said that if we delight ourselves in you, that you would give us the desires of our heart. So I pray that you would bless them today to work together in unity to tackle the agenda items. And I pray that you would give them the wisdom, the directions, and the instructions on how to lead, manage, and operate this city and all of its departments. May you draw in and attract to our city industry, businesses, corporations that they serve. And lastly, you said that we should pray for those who are in authority over this city. So I pray and lift up the mayor, her staff and assistants, the city council members, the city manager, and every person and department that is instrumental in leading and directing our city. I pray for the chief of police and the entire police force, the sheriff's department, the fire chief, the fire departments, and all first responders that serve our city, that they would continue to work and serve and protect our city and the residents. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. Let us pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
This morning we have two proclamations or recognitions, and the first one will be the proclamation of March 2022 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. All of you in the audience who are here to receive this, please come forward. An estimated 480,000 children in Texas and an estimated 1% of the San Angelo population have developmental disabilities. Their hopes and dreams do not differ from the aspirations of all citizens to be self-sufficient, work and earn a living, practice their faith, and help support their community. People with developmental disabilities have unique abilities and experiences that strengthen our city's rich diversity, and throughout our history, these individuals have made significant contributions to make San Angelo a better place for us all. There can be no doubt that San Angelo is stronger when every citizen is able to thrive in their community. Students with developmental disabilities who are included in classroom settings outside of special education are more likely to achieve their full academic potential. When people with disabilities are included in the general workforce, they have an opportunity to earn a competitive wage, work as part of a team, and support the local economy. People with developmental disabilities who are included and active in their community generally live longer, healthier lives, and are more likely to give back to their communities. When inclusion becomes a way of life, San Angelo thrives. In collaboration with MHMR Concho Valley, the local Intellectual Developmental Disability Authority, or LIDA, we dedicate March to raising awareness about developmental disabilities and highlighting the importance of including people of all abilities in every aspect of community life. During this month, all citizens of San Angelo can raise awareness about how classrooms, workplaces, houses of worship, and communities are stronger when they include people of all abilities. At this time, I encourage citizens to come together to increase awareness about developmental disabilities and support full inclusion and equality for all. Therefore, I, Brenda Gunter, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, Texas, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim March 2022 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. That's a lot of D's to say.
It was a lot, wasn't it?
Yeah, please, and then come forward and speak.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Council members. Thank you. On behalf of My Health, My Resources, Concho Valley, MHMR, we want to thank you and your support for all the things we do to support people. We focus on the abilities, not the disability. And with Concho Valley, we are in community every day. We are working with individuals, providing supports. In fact, last year we provided services to over 940 individuals with an intellectual disability. We provide supports for families, individuals, and work in the community with providing respite for families, providing transportation for individuals to work, to doctor's appointments, to grocery shopping, and case management, service coordination, advocacy for people, working with individuals in the State Supported Living Centers, trying to move them to a less restrictive environment to the community, and nursing facilities as well. A whole range of things. I did bring today some folks from our basketball team because we have a great basketball team, and with March being Intellectual Developmental Disability Month, we have this team and we celebrate with other community centers, and we play against many other community centers up at Big Spring Howard College. It's coming up on the 25th. And I'd like to recognize these folks. This is Brian and Lori. We have Nillian and Cassie. Not only do we have a basketball team, but we have cheerleader sections that do a halftime show, and I think several of these folks are on the cheerleader presentations. So I invite y'all. It's 25th up at Howard College. Come and visit, support the Concho Valley Bobcats. 5 years in a row they were winning before COVID hit, and we haven't played in 2 years. So we're hoping for the best, but I think we're going to do well. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Move here, and we're going to have a picture taken. Yeah, wait a minute. Come on. those individuals here for the Texas Small Business Development Center please come forward? Are you the only one today? Well, you're good. We're glad to have you. The National Small Business Development Center, SBDC, program was legislated via the Small Business Act of 1976 as a program of the U.S. Small Business Administration. State and local governments play a vital role as key partners to leverage resources which complement the SBDC's economic and business development efforts. The Texas SBDCs have provided small business assistance to starting and growing Texas's small businesses since inception. In Texas, 66,702 entrepreneurs were assisted, not arrested, with advising services in 2021. When COVID-19 stay-at-home orders were first issued March of 2020, the Texas SBDC network immediately pivoted small business advising and training for virtual and in-person delivery. In 2021 alone, Texas SBDCs assisted entrepreneurs with targeted disaster recovery and resilience at almost $148 million in disaster-related capital. Working with its economic development partners, the Angelo State University Small Business Development Center continues to demonstrate its service, hard work, and continued commitment that has helped small businesses in San Angelo and the surrounding 9-county area to survive, recover, and prosper. Therefore, I, Brenda Gunter, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, Texas, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim March 16th as Texas Small Business Development Center Day in San Angelo, Texas, and call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. Congratulations, and please speak. That's all right.
I just want to say thank you to Mayor Gunter and the City Council and everyone here today. We're very excited to receive this. We've been participating, the city has, in America's Small Business Day for a few years now, and just so everyone is aware, there are SBDCs throughout the nation, and so this is something that is celebrated nationwide with nearly 1,000 centers throughout the United States, and we are just happy to be here in San Angelo serving our small business clients and in the surrounding counties. We couldn't do it without our economic development partners and our team, which I know I'm here as a loner today, but it's because everybody is out busy, including, well, our student team is actually off on spring break. So we work them very hard. They provide so much work and effort to support our program, and so they're all on vacation this week. So we're excited to continue to serve the community in all ways that we do through advising and training, and we appreciate this acknowledgement.
Thank you. Let's have a picture. We will now move into the public comment section of the agenda. Issues or concerns not on the regular agenda may be raised by the public at this time. Citizens should speak from the podium, address all comments to the dais, begin by stating their name and address or single-member district number, and limit their remarks to less than 3 minutes. Council has no obligation to respond to comments or questions from the public. Any response from a member of the City Council to non-agenda comments is limited to a statement of specific factual information, recitation of existing policy, and directing staff to place a subject on a future agenda. Do we have anyone in the audience today who would like to come forward and offer public comment? Teresa, I'd like to have you repeat what the process is if people are very unhappy with Suddenlink service, please. What can they do?
We have a webpage that is on our website that outlines the arbitration process. There's forms listed there where you can fill out the forms and ask for arbitration under Suddenlink. Everybody's individual contract prohibits the city from acting on your behalf. You do have to take action individually, and we've helped you do that by listing the process. There's some videos there as well as the forms to help you do so.
I know this weekend there were many, and this past week, many individuals, citizens who experienced dramatic problems with their Suddenlink system. Many businesses in the downtown area over the weekend lost all of their credit card capabilities. No phone lines and no credit cards. So they had to ask all their customers to have cash. The problem was so many people had to go get cash that the ATMs ran out of cash. There are people who are CPAs who have not been able to process, for example, oil and gas information so that they can complete someone's income tax. They've been out of internet service for over 9 days. This service that we're getting from Suddenlink is truly unacceptable, and I encourage all citizens to continue to work to make sure Suddenlink understands what poor service will cost them as a business, an individual, and we as a city. It's truly unacceptable. I know what we went through because we had no phone line, so we couldn't process credit cards, which means no one could call and make reservations or be in contact with anyone at our restaurant from around 4 o'clock on Friday all the way till 6 o'clock on Monday. No phone service, no credit card processing, and no internet. And I know that there are many other individuals out there in businesses who also went through that same thing this weekend. So please go online, go to our city's website, and make sure that you understand what you can do to make sure Suddenlink understands their lack of service is not acceptable in this city. Thank you. I'll ask once again, is there anyone here who would like to offer public comment? With none, we'll move into the consent agenda, and I will ask each council member if there's any items that they would like to have pulled from the consent agenda. I'll start with Larry. No?
No, ma'am.
I'd like to pull item M. Harry?
No, ma'am.
Tom?
No, ma'am.
Tommy?
No, ma'am.
With that, I will ask that we have a motion to approve all the consent agenda items except for item M. May I have that motion?
So moved.
Harry made a motion, Lucy seconded. Any public comment concerning any consent agenda items? Being none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With none opposed, consent agenda passes 7-0. Oh, ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't see you stand up. Please come forward. My apologies. I looked to the left and looked to the right and forgot to look out.
Burke, and I was just gonna ask why we're pulling item M.
Well, because I want some explanations on it, so, and some conversation about it, so the public can understand what's going on.
Okay, would you like me to fill everybody in?
Well, I'd
Or
like John
no.
James. I'm assuming he's here.
Happy to answer any questions. I think I do have a couple of slides
I would hope so.
that have a summary of those projects. So there are two projects in the north tiers area. You can see those both here, two adjacent properties. Requested the maximum amount of $75,000, and the board recommended funding both of those at their requested amount. And you can see the $150,000 recommended with a little over $2.1 million available in the north.
Do you have pictures of those two buildings?
I do not. I'm sorry. We had been including these on the consent agenda in the past, and they had typically not been pulled off,
I
so we
pulled them
didn't.
every time, but yeah,
We
pretty
didn't
much
have,
every
we don't
time.
have the full presentation. We we could bring those back at a future meeting if that's your
No, because then it will
request.
hold up the process of approving, and I don't want anybody receiving the funds to be held up on this issue. So, no, but I'd like to make sure we have them, because I think these two projects, 1212 North Chaburn and 1218 North Chaburn, are two properties that certainly need a tremendous amount of work done on them. And the fact that this money exists so that they can do the work as described as they described in their application is significantly important, and will make a big difference in that block in terms of what that block looks like. So unfortunately, I wish our citizens could see that. Yes, Lucy?
I just wanted to ask John, for the public, what kind of business is at 1212 North and 1218 North?
You know, if the applicant's here, they maybe can answer that better than me. I
12
believe
is
they
a
were.
vacant building, so it's 1218, and what their intent is to take down those buildings, clear them. They have to put in new plumbing and electrical, so they're going to clear the properties. They're going to put in new plumbing, new electrical, put down a new slab, and then build a brand-new building on top of that. So where they're really terrible buildings, they've haven't been used in a very long period of time, and this will make a very big difference on that block in terms of what that block looks like. So I think there's significant projects.
And I believe the intended uses for those buildings are automotive related, a tire shop and another two buildings adjacent on the same property, but the same property or the same owner is redeveloping both sites with two new buildings. And so here is a summary of all of the requested projects in the south. And you can see the top there are the ones that were recommended for funding by the board. The rest of those were not recommended funding for your consideration today. We'll have another conversation in the future. The board actually did recommended funding the rest of those with North funds, but that's a different conversation. The board goes through a process, and these projects are ranked and weighed against each other because, as you know, in the South, we typically get more requests for funding than there is funding available. So you can see the total request there is $509,000. With the available being 143, although you may recall at the last meeting you approved 3 projects that the board had recommended, and so those aren't on this list but have already previously been approved. So total there was about almost 300,000 available, but well over 500,000 in requests. And so the board ranks these projects with assistance of staff. What they chose to do in this case was recommend funding those top listed projects, but given the availability of funding, they recommended funding every one of them at 75% of what was requested, again, to stay within the amount of available funding. And you can see that leaves only about $11,000. So they expended or recommended expending almost all of the funds available in the South for those projects, leaving these remainder of projects with insufficient funding to give those projects
I have
money
a question. On 416 South Oaks, it says Concho Christmas, which is a nonprofit. Are those buildings owned by Concho Christmas?
They are not.
Good. Okay.
They were named Concho
That's what I
Christmas
wondered,
because
yeah,
there
'cause I
was an
didn't think so.
original, my understanding is the original intent was for those to be used for Concho Christmas. They ended up not being used
Yeah.
for that, and they're currently owned by a for-profit. They're currently vacant, but the plan with this project is to turn them into occupied space, I believe for art purposes, but not for Concho Christmas.
Yeah, just because you've put it out there on that, and we don't fund nonprofits, so just to be clear with everyone, because I didn't think it was a nonprofit.
Right. And you may notice some of these projects were split because of the different elements of the project. So for example, Zetzman Investments, there's a fire sprinkler portion and a facade improvement. And so to help weigh different pieces of the projects, we split a number of the projects that had different elements. So for that 416 South Oaks, for example, they looked at the facade improvements separately from the non-facade improvements, and that was just part of the evaluation process.
May I?
Yes, please, Karen.
I visited all the properties, and just a minor correction, but 416 South Oaks is occupied.
Oh, it's already
There is a
occupied.
tenant
Okay.
in that building.
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Howard Taylor has leased that building.
It's a plant to people is the name of the business. Plants for people, plants to people.
I think because I'm quite sure that's leased, but anyway, nonetheless, it's outdoors. It's not that what's happening inside. It's about improving
Right.
the physical presence of that building, which is good. Yes, Lucy?
Okay, I'm a little confused here, because your recommended funding is 132, 156, and in our paperwork, we're asking to approve 110, 365. So am I making, did I miss something?
You know what, this slide may be the one we used to present to the board. There was one project they altered slightly, and so I think that's the difference. We had recommended funding the Zetzman Investments facade at 109 South Chadbourn, and in the course of the board meeting, the discussion revolved around Zetzman Investments needing the sprinkler system to even be able to open. And so what the board did was flip those two. They chose to fund the fire sprinkler currently and then delay the facade improvements until a later phase of that project.
Which is fine, but again, the question is, our paperwork all reflects $110,365. So
Yeah,
what specifically on those, where's the difference between 132 and the 110? Is that the Zetman, the 9,000? Because it's bigger than that.
I'd have to go back and look at the numbers. The numbers in your packet are the correct numbers as recommended by the board.
Because our information in our packet says 110,000. So it's not just on the agenda, it's in our background information for 110,365. So it includes it says 46,125, it includes the 21,392, it includes the it says 2658, which isn't up there. It includes 22,190. Which is different than the 30,000 on the Concho Christmas. You have 31,007. Ours says 22,190.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and check those numbers. My understanding is the ones in the packet on the memo are correct, but I'll have to go back and look at those.
So when we make a motion to approve, we will be approving the $110,365, which is what is in our background information, not what you have there on the slide, just to be clear with everyone. Okay. Then may I have a motion for approval of the total north of $150,000 and the south of $110,365 to be approved for these projects. Is there a motion?
Brenda, should we clear this up before? I know you said you didn't want to delay this, but with the questions we have here, Teresa, is there some way to approve this so that it doesn't delay the projects, but get the correct? How could we do that?
You could do it as the mayor suggested, approving the number that's on the agenda. So approving these projects in the total amount of the 110,365.
I'll make that motion then, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes.
That
Do I have
does
a
match the
second?
background.
Larry, you seconded. With all of that, is there any public comment? Seeing none. Oh, please come forward.
Bria Burke. Okay, so I thought that there was going to be a topic of discussion in regards to the tiers money in general, and if I'm stepping out of line, let me know. So as y'all see, you know, on the numbers, the north side has $2 million plus.
We can't discuss that. That item is an agenda item on the regular agenda, so we can't talk about it right now.
Oh, it's on
this.
there.
It
Okay,
is.
excuse
It's the
me. I'm
last
sorry.
or one of the last items on
Oh,
the
okay.
regular agenda, so we will get to it.
Get to that.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for paying attention. All right, with that, we'll take a vote. All in favor of approving the 110,000 for the southern, 110,365 for the south, and 150,000 for the north. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, that motion passes 7-0. We will now move into the regular agenda. Regular agenda comments regarding items on the regular agenda may be made by the public when each item is discussed as outlined above. Applicants, proponents, and appellants are exempt from the time limit above and instead must limit their remarks to less than 5 minutes. We're going to have our first item on the agenda is a presentation by Charlotte Anderson on Keep San Angelo Beautiful. Please come forward. And I know you have a lot of folks in the audience who's on your board. Would you folks like to come forward and give her support while she makes her presentation so we can acknowledge you? If you would like to, come forward now. If you want to stay in your seat, you're allowed to do that. No one's coming forward. Okay, Charlotte, you're on.
Good morning, Mayor Gunter, City Council, and guests. Keep San Angelo Beautiful would like to thank you for the opportunity this morning to share our accomplishments for the calendar year of 2021 by providing you an overview of our activities. So, in 2021, with over 101 events and activities, KSAB impacted approximately 1,921 businesses with 633 volunteers, generating 2,493 volunteer hours for a value of $71,150 to the City of San Angelo in labor. We provide a survey every year at our
Is that minimum wage labor, or how did you?
No, ma'am. It's $25.48 an hour, and that's based on an average day of work plus a volunteer hour at an after-hour rate. It's set by the state of Texas. We follow the Keep Texas Beautiful guidelines, and they post that for us every year.
Thank you.
You're sure welcome. So we take a survey at our Hazardous Waste event every year, and we determine our top 6 areas of interest. They've stayed the same, but rotated a little bit. So recycling, hazardous waste, trash cleanups, planting trees, parks, beautification, and children's education have remained the top 6. A few of our programs this year include our junior ambassadors focusing on education, business ambassadors, which are business contacts who share our information with our teams. For volunteers, we have Voice at the Table, which creates awareness, and our We Care program that recognizes those that go above and beyond in our community. So this is some information on our hazardous waste event, which was very successful this year. We had over 100 volunteers representing 36 businesses and included an eco fair with 19 booths. We generated 826 volunteer hours for a value to the community of $23,574. We saw over 420 vehicles, handed out trash bags, and city water conservation kits. Ella broke her world record of collecting over 8,176 plastic bags, and we recycled over
Repeat that number.
8,176 plastic trash bags.
And in what area was that?
What she did was, she's participated with us in the past. She's a very young girl that started her environmental activism in third grade from Santa Rita Elementary, and she's collected bags. So as her journey of going on vacations with her parents, they've seen the impact of plastic bags on turtles, on beaches, on the environment, on the oceans. And so her mission is to collect as many plastic bags as possible. And HEB has sponsored her and hosted her in the past where she's collected several bags. And then she reached out to us to participate with our Hazardous Waste event, which is perfect for her because as people drive through, she has a website and lets them know she's going to be with us, and they bring her just hundreds and hundreds of trash bags. So when they drop off their trash bags, they get a recyclable, reusable bag. So it's been a great honor to work with her, to mentor her, to help her on her mission as well. So we're real proud of Ella, and it's Ella Saves the Oceans. If you ever want to look her up, she's really sweet.
You know, we hope that there would be an ability to work with TxDOT on collecting these bags on all of our frontage roads and on the sides of 306 before TxDOT hires their mowers. Because once again, this past, whether it was January or December, I can't remember, they mowed without collecting these bags. So where there might have been 1,000 bags, we now had 10,000 particles of plastic bags.
Right. We also had 2 cleanups scheduled in the same time period. Unfortunately, with the weather in the 20s and the 30s and the freezing rain and drizzle, we had to cancel 2 of our events. But we also assisted at the same time last year. So I think their mowing is at the end of January, and then we're littered through the month of February. And hopefully we can work on some ways to be proactive next year. And that's just getting people out in front of the mowers and picking up bags that have been dropped off, through just negligence. So again, we hope to continue to be a part of that. I would like to find a proactive solution because it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep doing the same thing year after year after year.
It looks so bad.
Without a solution, and it does look bad. So hopefully we can have an impact on that as well, and the weather will participate with us. Last year we canceled no events, so little disheartening to know there's work to be done, and we had to cancel 2 this year. So back to that hazardous waste. We recycled over 48,000 pounds of materials, including 31,280 pounds of hazardous waste, 5,000 pounds of shredded documents, 260 pounds of cardboard, 45 car batteries, 900 gallons of oil, and 1,200 pounds of electronic waste, and over 12,805 tires.
You know, we have, I'll ask for that tire number in a minute.
Sure.
Again. But, there are people that in this community that have a business that pick up oil, for example, used oil at restaurants, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Are they participating with you in terms of picking up some of this oil when there's that much?
Our oil provider is Alliant Recovery, and he is a gentleman that I believe he works with the city, but he comes to our events for free, and he sets up and takes all types of oils and other products. So actually, when you drive through, you can bring anything, and he has a drum set up that siphons off straight to his truck. So for him to provide the services for free, you know how much it costs to have that disposal portion done for your business. We're just very grateful for him to offer that service to us. And he's offered it to us at our hazardous waste event this year.
Fantastic.
Yes, ma'am. Harry, did you have a comment or? No. Okay.
I was just saying 12,000 plus tires.
Okay, say that again.
Okay, 12,805 tires. So-
And that's just on this one, or is that for the year, the number you've collected?
So we collected, we had about 4 different collection days from May to October, which included 15 18-wheelers, Now, these 18-wheelers can hold anywhere from 800 to 1,200 tires, depending on how well they're stacked. It's a beautiful herringbone pattern, and for those that get it, it makes it a lot easier, and we can fill the trucks fuller. But so over that period, May to October, we did 15 trucks, and that equaled 12,805 tires. Very, very proud. So for a 6-month effort, that's amazing. I know it's just a start, and we have a lot of work to do. I do get calls on a regular basis about when is the next tire collection. It is very costly, but we will have a collection probably in May. And so we'll put that information out as soon as we can get that confirmed with our provider. And then Reliable Tires does the work with us on that. Again, these tires are stripped of the metals, sent to a steel foundry where they make rebar and angle iron products. And then, of course, the tires are chipped into 1-inch squares, and they're used for tire-derived fuel. So 100% recycled on that. So real proud of that. So let's go to the next page here. All of that is hazardous waste. And here we go. So to cleanups, we had over 12 cleanups removing 8,090 pounds of trash on the river, on our highways, at the airport, downtown, at the Girl Scout house, Howard College, and in our parks. Our major cleanup last year are the guys in the orange, and that was our fall sweep. We had over 200 participants, which represented 29 different organizations cleaning in 9 different areas around the city. We generated 751 volunteer hours at a $21,433 value to the community, and at that event we picked up over 1,640 pounds of trash. Our best team spirit was Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they were just amazing. Our most interesting item was the City of San Angelo finance team, led by Patricia Tafoya, and they found a little kitten. You can see in this picture, I'm thinking that might be to your left, the little bitty kitten. It was under a piece of cardboard on the Red Arroyo. No brothers, no sisters, no mom, no dad, and they took the kitty home. So very excited about that. Let's go to, how about trees? So we distributed 150 trees on approximately 38 different locations, including 26 SAISD school campuses, Howard College, Angelo State, Parks and Rec, several private schools, including Trinity Lutheran, Cornerstone, Ambleside, San Angelo Christian Academy, TLCA, TLC Kidsway, YMCA, and the Boys and Girls Club. We also worked with the Lower Colorado River Authority on a project at the airport that just turned out beautiful. 7 people removed 11 tons of rocks and debris and replaced it with beautiful river rocks, regional boulders, and cactus. We provided an irrigation-free beautification project that keeps San Angelo beautiful, maintains throughout the year. We're currently working on 3 sets of picnic tables with benches with Parks and Rec, and they will be in honor of Gregorio Gutierrez for Connexion, Miss Norma Gilman, Peace Corps biology teacher at with SAISD, retired after 30 years, and great environmentalist. And then Ken Landon for his work with the International Lily Collection. So those are 3 different areas that will be providing some beautification. Those should be implemented this spring. And our junior ambassadors, they are just so sweet. So we've provided over 3,850 recycling and environmental lessons on Earth Day, America Recycles Day, to over 1,927 students at 18 SISD elementary campuses through the YMCA after-school program, and to our 6 private schools, Girl Scouts, American Heritage Girls, Children's Fair participants, students at the Boys and Girls Club, and then, of course, we have students that are in the Trias competition that reach out every year, and we work with them as well to mentor them and give them the education and materials they need to have a great presentation. Our KSAP Junior Ambassadors, they do receive special lessons. They participate in cleanups. They take a pledge to never litter, to recycle when they can. They get a certificate. They get business cards, stickers, booklets, and an environmental planner. We are planting seeds and building our future environmental leaders, and they are just amazing. Okay, and our business ambassadors recruit employees for team building exercises and service hours. Our number one fan is First Community Federal Credit Union. They have sent staff to every single one of our events. They've participated and volunteered at every event, and they are a sponsor of our children's program. So we're really grateful for them. Our Voice at the Table is a monthly collaborative event where we introduce KSAB to potential business ambassadors to recruit volunteers, donors, and recently a board member. We've hosted 11 groups with over 104 guests representing 64 businesses. We also have a We Care program where we recognize those that go above and beyond to make a difference in our community. We select one a month and have featured 12 this year. So a few of our activities, this is Angelo State University, our Earth Day, and we probably visited with maybe 250 or 300 students at that event. And our Star Spangled Banner Pops concert, we handed out 1,450 fans and 125 trash bags. And we also came back and cleaned up the Chadbourne Bridge after the event. So that was beautiful, beautiful event and a lot of fun. Another great accomplishment this year is our Keep San Angelo Beautiful Coffee. In an effort to address donation opportunities at our events, provide a way for those that cannot volunteer to support KSAB, and develop a marketing tool. Instead of an annual fundraiser, KSAB met with local roaster to develop an exclusive gourmet coffee blend. We introduced our KSAB coffee at Christmas at Old Fort Concho, and to date have taken donations for 525 bags. Proceeds go to Change the Landscape in San Angelo. Our packaging is biodegradable, and we include recycling tips on the back. It was very well received and enjoyed by the many hundreds of people that we saw at Christmas at Fort Concho. So they just loved it. And we provided you a sample today. So this past year, a little bit on recognition, we received our Gold Star status from Keep Texas Beautiful. We also received the Governor's Community Achievement Award of Excellence for our 2020 submission. We're also featured in San Angelo Lifestyle's Summer Edition magazine and are grateful for our city proclamations for Earth Day and America Recycles. Our work with the Chamber Leadership San Angelo's 38th class was a terrific team building opportunity. Our class raised close to $1,000 for rice for St. Paul's Presbyterian Church, and then we renovated a home that kept getting rained out and rained out and rained out. So we took the lady about $350 worth of groceries to hold her over till we could get to the renovations, but we did just a fantastic job. And I was happy to be a part of that. So in closing, we really want to thank the City of San Angelo for allowing us to be a conduit to the community, to provide environmental activities, to engage our families, our students, and our citizens. We, too, share the joy of our volunteers and let them know they're always wanted, needed, and valued, and we are grateful for them and all of those who choose to keep San Angelo beautiful. So thank you again. We've provided you a sample of the coffee, our recent article in TML, the Texas
Texas Town and City, actually.
Yes, Town City, I'm sorry, it's new for me, but very excited we got that published about the tires. We will be applying for an award with them as well regarding the tires. My strategy was give them the story first, and then we'll see if we can push that over the finish line. But please, if you can, if you would like, follow and share on Facebook. We're running at about 1,400 followers. We're real excited about that. Our next event is April the 2nd. It's the Texas Trash Off Day with Don't Mess with Texas. It's the largest cleanup day of the year. And we provided a flyer for you on that as well. And then our children's planner this year in recycling is out of this world. And so that's our theme. They've got aliens, spaceships, trash all in space, a few activities. The planner has friendly reminders and tips on the back of the cover. So that another was an HEB Green Bag grant provided by Keep Texas Beautiful. So if there are no further questions.
I do. I have a couple comments.
Yes, ma'am.
And one would be the following. So Keep San Angelo Beautiful is an important, necessary group to help keep San Angelo beautiful. But so much of your work is because citizens and visitors to our city have no respect for our city and think nothing of throwing the trash out and creating an ugly sight for anybody. I want you to, this is your opportunity to talk to the citizens, and what do you want to say to them?
So to the citizens that think we are a playground for their trash, real Texans don't litter, and we don't appreciate it. We care about our community. We care about our environment. We've received so many accolades on all of our beautiful achievements through art, through our downtown historic preservation. It's a shame that people would come and not leave it better than they found it. So we would urge our residents, which our volunteers are just amazing, to continue to help us make an impact. We care, and that's what it's all about. And I can tell you that the volunteers never stop. This last event, our fall sweep, on the Wednesday we had 105, and by Friday we had 186 people that registered to clean up at that event. So as long as those numbers keep growing, we'll keep doing the work, creating awareness. Our TV personnel are very kind to let us come on, a couple of times a month to continue to get that message out. We appreciate all the help we get. But yeah, for our guests and visitors, we just want to remind them that real Texans don't litter.
So our river is not a trash dump.
Oh my God, it's just incredible. It's absolutely beautiful. And we do have water conservation and water PDFs where we talk about where our trash goes, lakes, rivers, and streams.
But where does it come from?
Right, absolutely. Hopefully our younger generation will plant the seeds and get them engaged and work on dragging the parents, the brothers, the sisters, the siblings, the neighbors, to all get out and do their part to make a difference. So we'll all work together and we will make an impact on our beautiful city.
Just one moment. Yes, Daniel?
I do want to add as well that you may inadvertently be polluting as well. We have the great majority of vehicles in our city are trucks. People that keep trash on the back of their trucks, you see them on the loop, they're flying out. If you have a bed cover, wonderful. If you don't, look at the back of your truck. If you have trash there, it's going to fly out. Get rid of it. But I get sick and tired of seeing that also on the loop, is trash just flying out of the back of pickup trucks.
And we want to add to that Republic trash trucks. They need to make sure those Republic trash trucks are covered, because they carry a lot of trash and it flies like crazy. So we just want to remind everybody again, if you see a Republic trash truck driving down Loop 306 or some other area, let us know so we can make sure the people who manage and oversee Republic are aware of one of the big problems we have. Yes, Lucy?
I just want to make a quick comment, Charlotte, and to the citizens, is our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods get a little bit out of whack whenever the wind is blowing, the trash is being dumped. They don't bag their trash. It goes straight down the road or to other people's yards. So my comment to them is bag your trash, and if it falls out of the truck or whatever, pick it up. Because I've had one constituent actually tell me, I go down the street in my neighborhood picking up the trash that is left behind.
Harry?
Just a real quick comment. I want to say thank you to Charlotte. She's absolutely the right person to be in this position at this time. We've done a lot of good work with the board, and I'll continue to be on the advisory board as long as you need me. I think this is a program that will continue to garner accolades, not only in the city, but also at the state level, because we are making young people are very, very excited to be part of these programs, and the citizens want these services because we see the number of them coming every time we have a recycling event. So thank you, and we'll continue the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
We will move to item B, First reading and public hearing of an ordinance amending the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30th, 2022 for reimbursed and capital expenditures. Tina, you're on.
Morning, Mayor, Council, Daniel. Oh, no, Daniel. Tina Deersky, Director of Finance. I have a budget amendment for you this morning. The first one is for our seal coat project in the amount of $1.7 million. That's the project involved with the county. Second is to pay the final interest. Well,
Wait a
we've
minute,
already
go back
paid-
for the county. You said for the county. Why is it the county?
I think there's an interlocal agreement. I'll ask Patrick to come forward and explain that.
Good morning, Mayor, Council.
Morning.
This year, the county had reached out to us with an opportunity to join in on our seal coat bid this year to hopefully garner some economies of scale, bring in their quantities as well as our quantities and bid those out as a combined unit. We did see that in the bids that came back, so the county looked at those bids. They do want to participate in our chip seal program. So what this does is it's going to be the city's contract, but the county portion, the county will monitor and inspect their own chip seal applications. The city is just making the payment to the contractor for that. So in order to do that, we need the budget amendment to receive that money from the county, put it into our expense budget, and reimburse ourselves for that expense.
But we're not paying for the county's
No,
project.
ma'am.
We're just using it as to build up the impact.
No, ma'am. The
Dollar
county
amount
has
for the
their own funds
contractor.
that is paying for
Okay.
this.
Thank you.
All right.
Next budget amendment is $893,000. That was the final interest payment that was made for the Ford Ranch, which you'll remember that we closed out in mid-February. So we just need to, that amount is still sitting in fund balance from the sales of parcels at the ranch. We just need to pull it up into the budget line item.
And so at this point, all interest and debt has been paid on the Ford Ranch. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
There's no more?
I hope you never see this again.
Thank you.
And finally, budgeting for auction revenue and insurance proceeds so that Ryan Kramer can purchase additional vehicles and equipment.
Go back. Okay, so we're giving him $205,000, and there's $125,000 that we received from the auction and insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
But we're expensing $205. So what's the difference between those two, and where does that money come from?
An additional $80,000 from the general equipment replacement funds fund balance. So he's pulling $80,000 out of fund balance.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions?
Questions for Tina?
Move approval, Mayor, as presented.
Motion by Tommy, a second by Harry. Any public comment? Hearing no public comment, we will take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, item B passes 7-0. Item C, consider resolution authorizing an application for financial assistance from the Texas Water Development Board for water system improvements, expressing official intent to reimburse costs of said projects and making certain findings in connection therewith. Well, that's Lori within.
Mayor,
Therewith.
if you don't mind, I'm going to make a presentation for items C, D, and E as they all revolve around the Hickory project and the
I'll go
expansion.
ahead and read D and E.
Okay, thank you.
Consider awarding the following agreements based upon scoring criteria as set forth in the competitive seal proposal procurement method, negotiated scope, and contract pricing using $12,966,537 from the Water Capital Fund balance and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute all related documents. 1, WU-05-22, Hickory New Production Wells to Hydro Resources, Mid-Continent Incorporated, in the amount of $8,500,881. And 2, WU-06-22, Hickory Treatment Plant and wellfield improvements to PLW Waterworks LLC in the amount of $53,010,915. And item E, consider awarding task order number 3 under WU-04-19, engineering services for water system improvements to the Hickory groundwater supply development to Improtech, Hibbs, and Todd Incorporated in the amount of $2,885,250, and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute all related documents. And
Thank you.
Allison, you are on.
Okay, thank you for reading all of that. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be doing a presentation that goes over all 3 items as they all relate to the Hickory expansion project. We want to make sure y'all have the full picture. Sorry, Brian. And so I'm just going to briefly go over what the Hickory expansion project is. It is the drilling of 5 additional wells. Currently, we have 15 wells. This will also increase the pump station capacity. The pump station is located out in Melvin, Texas, or the Ford Ranch formerly. And it'll also increase the treatment capacity, and the treatment plant is located here in San Angelo at the water treatment plant facility. This will give us the ability to pump and treat 12 million gallons. Current capacity is 8 million gallons per day. So this increases the reliability from the Hickory, and I'm going to highlight reliability because I want to, as we get further in the presentation, talk about what we're doing to make this system more reliable.
You want to stop real quick on, just for one comment, on the drilling of 5 additional wells. Just to be clear, that is the final 5 wells that we are allowed to drill on the Hickory Aquifer?
There's actually additional slots for additional wells to be drilled if that becomes necessary. But what this allows with the drilling of these 5 wells, we will be able to pump and treat our permitted amount. So in the event, much later down the road, if for some reason we needed to go drill another well, I don't foresee that. We've engineered and had our design consultant look at this so that we can pump the permitted amount. Anything above that would just give us more downtime in the existing wells that we have right now, or the ones that we have in operation.
So we have the ability to drill 1 more well, which we're not.
I believe it's 2.
2.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
In addition to the Hickory expansion system, we will be adding 2 new 2 million gallon clear wells. The clear well is what holds the final treated water at the water treatment plant before it's sent out to the elevated storage and into the distribution and ultimately to our citizens' homes. The existing clear well that we have today is a singular clear well. It was constructed in 1947. It is a concrete structure that has lapsed its timeline or its time frame, and that it just needs to be replaced. As I reminded you at the previous council meeting, we did use a competitive seal proposal procurement method. And so what we're looking for as far as timeline is if you award the contracts today, we hope to begin construction as soon as possible, April, May of this year. And the anticipated completion of this expansion project with everything that's kind of highlighted up here is July of 2024. So this is the 3 items that are before you today. One is to seek to adopt a resolution seeking additional funding not to exceed $14 million, and I will explain why we're at $14 million in a minute. We are looking to award contracts for the actual contractors. WO522 is the new wells, so that is only the drilling aspect of these 5 additional wells, and that's the $8.5 million. And then the WO622, the Hickory Treatment Plant wellfield improvements, is everything outside of drilling. So it's the roadways, it's the electrical system, pump upgrades, treatment capacity, clear wells, basically everything but drilling. And then finally is awarding task order 3 to Improtech, Hibbs, and Todd. This will cover construction phase services. So for those contracts, they will provide a resident project representative, which is inspections, and post-construction services, O&M manuals, as-builts, and construction staking, as well as they coordinate the regulatory work with Texas Water Development Board, TCEQ, those type of entities. So with the resolution for Texas Water Development Board, we originally received a $56 million loan from Texas Water Development Board in 2019. After procuring the construction contracts, we are about $13 million short of being able to proceed with those contracts. We are asking for additional funding from Texas Water Development Board for a low-interest loan in an amount not to exceed $14 million, and that is because we have issuance cost, fees, those type of things, just closing cost to borrow money from Texas Water Development Board. So that's why we're asking for an amount not to exceed 14. What we are doing with these agenda items is we are using water capital fund balance to cover that $13 million in the interim. And once we receive the funding, hopefully fall of 2022, we would reimburse ourselves for the fund, or reimburse the fund balance so that we can utilize those dollars for street programs and other water utility projects that we have in the works.
Is there any risk that we would not get the money?
We feel very confident, and this is already a project that Texas Water Development Board has seen approved with a $56 million loan. It's in the state water plan. We feel very confident in getting funding from Texas Water Development Board. So how we get a little bit closer to trying to backtrack into why we need an additional $13 million. Ultimately, we went out and procured those two construction projects, and what you see on the far left is the original proposal amount, or what those contractors submitted. So you can see that the new wells were $8.576 million. The treatment plant expansion and well fields were $53.2. So those were the original proposal amounts, and y'all allowed us at the previous council meeting to start negotiating with those contractors. And so the middle section you will see is the new negotiated proposal amounts. We were able to save $76,000 on the drilling aspect. There was no scope change with that contract, and that's just due to it's designed for a certain capacity, and so that we can pump the 12 million gallons. So we can't drill the wells any shallower. We don't need to narrow any casing or anything like that. We want to make sure that we can pump and treat the 12 million gallons. But we did have some savings as we negotiated with that contractor. The next one is the treatment and well field. So originally 53.2, we were able to negotiate down to 53 and some change. So ultimately saving $223,000 through those negotiations. But I would like to point out that we actually increased the scope as a part of those negotiations. So we didn't take anything away from the contract, we actually increased it. One of those items is to cover the additional land clearing needed for Encore. So how AEP serves the San Angelo area with power and the pole provider, Encore is that power and pole provider in McCullough County and in the area of the well field. And so we will be bringing back to council authorization to have Encore come expand their system within the ranch. And so that's just installing new power lines and power poles to supply the new wells. But what that allows is PLW is able, they're already clearing for the roadway and the pipeline work. So we were able to add the right-of-way clearing for the electrical system as a part of that, as well as add a standby generator at the booster pump station. I don't want to remind anybody of February of 2021, but what we did experience there is we were not able to access the Hickory system. We had no power at the well field. And with this expansion project, we will be able to, we will have 5 portable generators that can hook up to wells themselves, as well as we've added this standby generator at the pump station so that we can power that system even without an electrical, without the electrical grid.
Didn't Encore come through for us in
They
February?
did.
So we were able to get the water we needed to help build up the water pressure during
Yes,
that
but they
storm.
weren't able to do that until like 3 or 4 days into already losing water. So by the time we were able to get Encore to power up the well field, that is when we were trying to replenish our reservoirs and our storage facilities. We were already, half the city was without water. So with those, the negotiated proposal cost is the $61.8 million. The existing $56 million loan that we have with Texas Water Development Board allows for $4.8 million to go towards these construction contracts, leaving the $12,966,537 to be utilized from fund balance for now, seeking additional Texas Water Development Board funding and reimbursing those fund balances.
You want to remind us again when we think we will be notified of our ability to secure the $14 million? What's the timeline?
I believe that we were looking at closing in fall of 2022. And then finally, for item E, is task order 3 with Improtech Hibbs and Todd, or EHT. As I stated previously, this is for construction phase services for both those contracts, for the drilling and all the improvements that we will see here in San Angelo as well in McCullough County. They provide all the post-construction services, as-built, O&M manuals, everything that we need as a part of this expansion project. They also do construction staking, and that task order is $2.8 million, and it is already funded by the previous loan. So there's no additional funding needed through this, or for this contract.
Tell them what that picture is.
That is the Hickory treatment system that you see on the left. So that is inside the big CMU block building over near Paint Rock Road, or Avenue L. So this is the inside of the treatment facility, kind of at the front of the plant. So with that, we still need an individual vote on each item. And so I've made 3 slides for the 3 different items and have a recommendation for each one. But this ultimately, the first one is for item C, and it is to approve the application and resolution with Texas Water Development Board.
Do I have a motion for item C?
So moved.
Tommy's moved, and Harry has seconded that item C. Do we have any public comment on the item C on the agenda? With none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of item C, say aye.
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 With none opposed, motion passes 7-0. Item D.
Yes, we have, our recommendation is to authorize the contract with Hydro Resources for $8,500,881, and to authorize the contract with PLW Waterworks for $53,010,915. This will use the fund balance for a portion of this contract until Texas Water Development Board funding is available.
Do I have a motion for approval of item D?
So moved.
So moved by Harry, seconded by Lucy. Any public comment? Seeing none, we will take a vote. All in favor of item D.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
I wasn't sure.
Item E.
Yes, this one is, our staff recommends the contract be awarded, or task order, not a contract, task order, for Improtech Hibbs and Todd be awarded at $2,885,250.
Do I have that motion?
So moved.
So moved by Harry, seconded by Tommy, or maybe the reverse. Okay. Public comment? With none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We are going to take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back at basically 5 minutes till 10. All right, it's 9:57. I have all council members present, so we will move into item F, discussion and direction to staff on possible changes to the distribution of North and South Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone tiers. John, you're on.
Thank you. At their most recent meeting, the Tiers Board made a recommendation to change how the Tiers funds are basically collected and split up between the two zones. Or I shouldn't say two zones. There's only one zone, and that's kind of a misconception among some folks. The North and South tiers are not two separate tier zones under the state law. If they were, then the segregation of funds would be complete. Basically, you couldn't move funds from one to the other. But as it stands, the tiers was created as one individual zone, and within the rules for that zone, we established this split between North and South. And so money that tax revenue, property taxes that come in from the North stay in the North, and property tax revenue that comes in from the South stays in the South. And so the South funds are used for South projects and North for North projects. That's how it has been and how it currently is, but that's the change that the board is recommending. Just a couple of maps here in case there are questions about where the boundaries fall, but this is the North tiers. You can see sort of that donut hole in the middle. State law limits the amount of residential property that can be within a tiers. And so that mostly residential area was left out to meet that state law requirement. So it basically goes up Chadburn and then Bryant and then up including the new or the North Walmart area. And then the South tiers is largely downtown. And so that's the area of it. So as I said, historically the revenues were split. North stayed in North, South stayed in South. And projects can only be funded, South projects only with South funds. There is an exception to that if the board recommends by a 3/4 majority that funds be used from one and moved to the other for a project. That can be done. It does require a 3/4 majority of both the Tiers Board and the City Council in order to use funds across the boundaries. So what the Tiers Board recommendation is, in short, is to take all of those existing funds. There's about, as I mentioned earlier, there's almost none left, just 10 or 15,000 that would remain in the South, and about 2 million in the North. They would take those funds, combine them into one pot, and then split them 50-50. Half to the North, half to the South. And then in future years, that same 50-50 split would apply. So instead of money earned in the North staying in the North and South staying in the South, it would all be put into one pot at the beginning of the year and then split 50-50. So under their recommendation, there would still be North funds that could only be used in the North and South funds in the South, but the split would be that 50-50 split. And that would end up giving a little more money to the South and a little bit less to the North over time. I think I've already explained those. So here's just a brief, this is the financial report that was given to the board at their last meeting, so it's numbers as of January 31st. So as you'll see, that bottom line number for the South here is about $250,000. So that does not yet include the projects that you just approved today. It also doesn't include the projects that you approved at your last meeting. And I won't go through all.
Why do we not have a current updated since you?
Well, this gets updated every or monthly, and so the February 31st or February 28th, sorry, report will be coming out later this month. Those usually come out about a week before our Tiers Board meeting, and so we just don't have that. This is the most recent report that we have. You can see the revenues are about $437,000 at least for this year in the South tiers, and you can see some of the expenses that have gone. I can come back to this if there are questions. And then so in the North, it's about $705,000 or $707 total revenue, and so you can see that's a little bit higher. So 707 versus the 437. So a little bit more, quite a bit more revenue that comes into the North versus the South. Was there a question?
If I may. And those numbers that you just mentioned, those are for this year alone?
That's correct. So
Okay.
that's the revenue anticipated for this current year. So every year, again, next year, we would expect another 437,000. It goes up a little bit every year
Well, you
with
also have a
growth.
beginning balance. Remember,
Okay,
you have
right.
new revenue plus existing balance. And that's the reason the northern tiers, see, because they had a beginning balance of 2.4 million.
Oh, thank you for
So
pointing
that's
that
why you
out.
have, you can't just look at the new numbers, you gotta look at existing
Understood.
beginning, just like in your checking account.
So I guess the correct question is, on an annualized basis, what does that look like by zone?
Well,
That's
so,
your property tax dollar
I know.
line, because that's, at the end of the year, the appraisal district gives the new numbers.
and so I think this next slide answers your question. The current split is 705,000 to the north, 437 to the south. If we instead had taken that money and split it equally 50-50, it would be the 571,000 to each of the areas. And so, as you can see, the south would get about 140,000 more than they would otherwise, and the north would get about 140,000 less than they would otherwise.
Lucy, please.
John, why is it that the north has more money than the south?
Well, let me tell you, because I think I'm the only one here who was in existence when this tiers thing was approved. And it was approved for the following reasons and done this way. The initial intent was the following, that the northern tier zone benefited from, and the creation of the tiers was done because there was a big piece of land in the north that Walmart bought and was going to build on. So when they built on it, that was the beginning of a huge impact to the northern tiers, because they benefited from all of the strip center, the Walmart being created. The intent initially was in the southern tiers, you had Shannon Hospitals, whose real estate at that point in time was on the tax rolls. So the north was to benefit from the Walmart and the increases in the development there, as well as the benefit of whatever might develop on Bryant Boulevard. The south was to benefit from not only Shannon Hospital, but the anticipated growth of Shannon Hospital. The problem is that after the tiers was created, Shannon took their property, all of their real estate, to nonprofit status. So initially, you also lost dollars because Shannon Hospital took all of the real estate off the market, if you will, nonprofit status. So even though the intent was to better balance the north versus the south, and we even debated back then about, truly, do you want to be calling this north versus south and starting to put citizens against citizens, or splitting the north versus the south? And so, but that is the reason you have north versus south, and that's the reason for the differences in the revenue. And of course, Bryant Boulevard was included in the northern section, and you know how much development has happened on Bryant Boulevard on the east side. So that's where the income comes from.
My next question, and I know that it's because it's not in the zoning, but why did they not include the Walmart on the south side?
We tried to do that. We would have had to create another tiers zone. And the problem with that is, again, as John just said, you can only have a certain percentage of that real estate that is non-residential. So if you start taking a look at going south, a lot of that district would have been heavy residential. They wouldn't consider just blocking out, and the city council back then voted not to do that and not to create another tier zone, because you would have had to create another tier zone, because as you went further south on Chadburn, you went through huge residential area.
I know that this isn't the first time that this has been brought up to combine. What was the reason that they turned it down previously, that they did not want to combine the funds?
Let me just give you a little history on. So when I was president of Tiers, I was the first Tiers president. And one of the first requests I had is when we were redoing the new library downtown. And they were short $140,000 to do what would have been the west part of that whole sidewalk area on South Irving, because it had a tremendous slope. It was dangerous. It was crazy. It was going to be expensive to do it. So I asked that there be consideration for those funds coming from the north. And it was an adamant, I went before City Council then and asked for that request. We got it passed, but we got it passed. It was very emotional, a lot of anger, a lot of disappointment. And the people who were on the board at that point in time representing the North absolutely would not stand up before City Council and speak. Even though they voted in the Tiers board meeting to do that, they wouldn't, even though they were sitting in the audience that day, would not come forward and talk before City Council to get that approved, those $140,000. In addition, the Southern Tiers, or Downtown San Angelo Inc., came up with the money to fund creating a tier zone, because the city did not have the $30-some thousand that was required in order to create this tier zone. So Downtown San Angelo Inc. raised the $30,000 to fund the creation of the tiers. But when money started to flow in, the South had to pay the North back the $140-some thousand for that sidewalk, and they demanded that when it was approved, the $30,000, the South would get reimbursed that $30,000, and that money would go to Downtown San Angelo Inc. The North demanded that be split, and they get $15,000 back. Downtown would get, or the South would get 15. This has been very contentious from the very beginning. Very beginning. It has been a very emotional issue, and it's one of the reasons why I strongly support having a town hall meeting to discuss this with the people in the North instead of just passing it at a city council level. Those citizens have a difficult time coming to city council and talking through it, because it becomes a North versus a South issue. We need to have a town hall meeting so that, and it doesn't mean we still wouldn't support doing it ultimately, but we need the people in the North to have an opportunity to talk through this and ask their questions, explain their issue, their concerns, whatever. Again, it doesn't mean we won't end up doing it, but I think we need an opportunity for them to be able to speak. That's all. I'm telling you, this thing has been contentious from the very beginning, particularly because we start talking North versus South. So it becomes an issue of our money versus your money.
So even though
Yes.
the library benefited both the North and the South, it was still
That was my big
contentious.
message. Everyone will be using this library.
Yeah.
We need to complete this library project. Many, many people will be using it. And as you know, that library has become very important. Many people use it. It has been a great success. And it's been a great success at a time period when people say, well, you can buy all your books online. No one goes to a library anymore. Well, talk to the library people and find out how many people use that library. They've done a terrific job of making it very appealing to new things in the marketplace in terms of what's happening in education, et cetera. It's been a big bonus. But again, I've lived through this for many, many, many years. And I doesn't mean I won't support doing it, but I want to have and believe we should have a town hall meeting to allow people to express their issues, concerns, or even perhaps ideas how it could better be done. And I also think that many people in the North are nervous about this and aren't quite sure what it means in terms of opportunity for them. We need to do a better job of getting the North to use the money, because from Loop 306 North, there's lots of improvement projects that should happen and would make a big difference. But we got to work hard at getting those people to apply for it. Again, that does not mean I wouldn't ultimately support it, but we need a town hall meeting for those individuals to be able to speak their minds and feel like they have a voice in this decision.
Question and a comment?
Yes,
if I
Karen.
may. I came here today prepared to fight for the North. So Madam Mayor, you've saved me a long speech. Thank you for that, and thank you for your explanation. I just want to clarify, the original intent was to encourage reinvestment within the zones. Is that correct?
That's
And I wholeheartedly agree that there are voices that aren't being heard, and I don't want them to be neglected. I think there's an education gap, and I'm not sure how to overcome that, but perhaps the town hall would accomplish that mission. I can see a place for the Chamber of Commerce, for the Small Business Development Center at ASU to participate, also for our own economic development group. So I support your recommendation.
Thank you. Lucy?
I have a question. If we do have a town hall meeting, how would we get the North business owners to be aware of this meeting for them to attend?
Well, we're going to have to work with various groups. I would suggest working with Shirley Spears, NAACP, but there's other organizations that we could use.
To get the word out.
To get the word out. And I also say that we need to do it on a timely basis. So I would like to consider doing it within the next 2 weeks, the next 10 days if possible. We need to do it as soon as possible so we can move forward on these projects if it works out that way. But we need a town hall meeting. So with that, do I have somebody who wants to make a motion to do that?
I make a motion.
Yes.
So, I got questions for
Well,
you.
you can speak, Stephen, after we make a motion a second, and then you can speak at that point. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
So
Tom.
before we go forward, just as long as I understand it right, we're looking at just splitting what we have there, correct? And how much are we moving south, John?
There's a little over, it's about 2.1 million. So basically, we would take what's in the pot right now, about 2 million, and divide it evenly, $1 million each to north and south. And then in future years, as the revenue came in, it would also be split 50-50.
Okay, so do that. As far as, it's not geography based, it's just gonna be revenue based. But I mean, questions I've asked you over the past few days, me and Hebert, you know, if you look at the revenue coming from the south versus the revenue coming from the north, yeah, we got to move this because there's people down south that need some money and some funds. But I've had many phone calls from people in the north, and I will go back to, you know, to be honest, north of the loop, we've done a poor job of educating those people on what they can come do. All right, and I mean, to it, you've answered the question on that. My question is there a max on what some of these people get? Is that 75,000?
That's right.
Because that was a concern, because we've had some people, we've heard about some projects that are coming in, and we don't want somebody to subsidize their whole new renovation project that have the means to afford it through tiers funds. Okay, I think there's a priority there. There's some consistency issues about, I saw one today on pavement and asphalt. I know some people asked for paving of their parking lots, and that was not approved. But I saw one today that was approved, and there's been some caliche lots that have been approved. So I have some questions over consistency, but I think that's irrelevant to the fact of moving the money.
Well, that's the reason I think we have to have it, because there's a town hall too, but we also have to be consistent, to your point. We've said over a period of 2 to 3 years, no signs will be approved. If you can't afford your sign, no money will go towards signs. We have said no money will go to parking lots. If you want to do landscape, the money goes to landscape, but not to putting down a parking lot. And the question mark is, you know, all of a sudden we're going to do this and then we're going to do that, but we've told people in the past, no, we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that, but then we do it. And we've got to be more consistent in terms of what we say the rules and regulations are, what we end up approving. It's just not. It's depends if we like somebody or like the project. We can't be doing that. There ought to be more rules, regulations, whatever you call it.
Well, we'll look for some consistency there, but one thing I was talking to Yolanda about also, Franco, was, you know, now the Kent Quick and the Huddle House are going to fall into this north tier zone.
That's right.
Just perfectly on the line. So there's additional revenues coming. So I don't want anybody to be afraid that we're moving the availability, but, you know, my whole point is, and this is where I'm going to go to, if we need to move money, it takes a supermajority at the tiers vote and also a supermajority or 3/4 majority here at council. Somebody just can't do that with an overrun all the north people can't just rally up and take money from the south without input from the south or back and forth. And if that's already in place, I'm good with this. But protection over the funds, make sure everybody's treated fairly. But my biggest concern here is consistency on what we approved going north and south.
Well, and I think, go ahead, Daniel.
Mayor, I just for clarification purposes, so the $571,000 that would be split if this happens. If the North doesn't spend that 571, the remainder carries over. Is that correct into a fund balance?
That's correct.
Okay, I
And
just
that's
wanna make
how,
sure.
that's how the North Zone now has over 2
Correct.
million, because each year, not all of it gets spent, so it keeps building over time.
I just want to make sure that was clear.
Chadburn is from, as we all know, from the Loop North to the Coliseum has traveled a lot. It is a site that people see. It is an image of our city. We need to do a much better job of helping to improve that corridor from north to south and make sure that we have our best foot forward and that those individuals on that northern corridor understand what the opportunity is, what they could be doing, simple things that could make that corridor look a lot better and best foot forward. So I think we owe the citizens in the north, first and foremost, an opportunity to show how they could use the money and improve their property. You know, some people say, but what if I improve my property, then my taxes go up? It's a funny negative thing that some people think about improving their property. We need to make them better understand, yeah, it might, but you might also be able to sell the property for a lot more money if you improve the property. It's a process, and I believe we need to do that.
Another question, if I
Yes,
may.
Karen.
So, to my mind, the proposed split and the issue of education are two different things. And they're not independent of one another by any means. But to Mr. Valenzuela's point, he questioned the proposed split and the value of it. What oversight would there be to ensure that overage in any part of the zone, north or south, is retained to serve that zone, if that makes any sense? What would stop us from, again, asking for money from here to go over there, or vice versa?
I think once you start the process, that's what you start worrying about.
Right.
And they keep the numbers pretty good. Today we saw a problem. But, you know, we need to make sure that the accounting is correct, that we keep the correct accounting, fund balance and accounting.
Basically, what I was pointing out as well is, and Karen, to your point, the 571 would carry over and be kept in fund balance for the use only for the north. And it can't be, the discussion then in the future can't be, well, we need that money too, they're not using it. So if there's a split, it's an understanding that it's 571, 186. Of course, that'll grow on an annual basis based on values. But it's got to be understood that we're not going to pull from the fund balance on the north in the future, if that's
Right.
the case. So, and that's
I
just
think
one
that's
example.
very important.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mayor.
you know, again, I think we have, go ahead, Harry.
Been on this council almost 6 years now, and we've consistently had conversations about the north and south zones. And I get citizens from both areas call on a regular basis. I think this could be a good way for us to manage this. But I will have to say this, we have got to do a better job of letting the people in the North Zone know the advantage of these tiers funds so that we can get them to improve their property. If we do that, we don't have to worry about the 571 being in balance because they'll spend it every year. But we've got to do a better job of doing that. I think this town hall meeting is something that we should do. I think it's something that we can do, have some education on some of the property owners north of the loop. We've got to do a better job, and that's what I told an individual this last week. What can we do to this? And I said, you guys in the North Zone have got to start educating your business owners. Otherwise, you're going to consistently be talking about, well, there's more money in the North Zone than there is in the South.
Thank you. Okay, so do I have a motion to not, I don't know how I need to say this, a motion to not approve today's, but to give direction to staff to pull together a town hall meeting so that we can further discuss this issue? Do I have that as a motion?
So moved.
Do we need a motion?
I was going to say, maybe I don't think we need a motion. Let's just direct staff to have a town hall meeting.
Okay, so there's
Yeah.
no motion required here.
Wait a minute.
But, wait a minute. We should not be approving anything from the south, from the north right now till we have a town hall meeting.
Mayor, as far as the recommendation has been made by the Tiers Board, it's something that in the near future will have to be decided because the recommendation's on the table. But what you're saying, Mayor, is let's get that input first before y'all make that decision. But that is something that'll be coming forward.
I mean, we don't know that money will, we just need to have a town hall meeting before any further action is taken on this issue.
Table
Yep.
this motion until we get the town hall meeting and bring it back at a future agenda item, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Agreed.
If
There's nothing on the table right now,
Do we
Mayor.
need a motion to do that? I can do that.
No, she
Okay.
said we don't.
Yeah, there's no action item on the table today. So there's nothing you need to table. You just need to direct us to have a town hall meeting.
Yes. I am. No, I am. Yes, Tommy. I'm just trying to get to all of you first, okay?
I'm with you.
One thing at a time.
Come on, Brenda.
Step in. Yeah. Tommy.
I have a question. John, do you ever get any comments from South business owners if they have been declined, number one, or number two, they've had to, they have been awarded money but has been reduced because there is not enough in the South? Do you ever get any comments from the business owners? Well, I work just as hard to make my business good and be successful, and yet there's all this money in the north side. Do you ever get comments?
I can tell
like
you they
that?
do, and I can tell you people come to me and talk about it because they're frustrated. If they need 75,000, but they got 20,000, well, in some cases, that means they don't get to move forward with the same level of a program that they intended to. And at the same point in time, there have been people that get turned down. That being said, we can't now all of a sudden, because there's projects on the table, give them a full amount just because there's money on the table when we've been turning people down and some people get nothing. We've got to get an equitable approach to this.
How you see this, maybe not daily, but very often. Just the conversation up here this morning, and I'm assuming we would hear it if or will hear it in public comment. How can we get this, the VS, period, the versus? We've got this versus that. How can we get that out of the conversation? You're familiar with tiers in other communities. Do they have this same type of issue that one area and they split it? How does that work in other places?
I don't know of another city that has one tier zone that's split into sub areas that money is segregated like we have it here. That's not to say that there aren't. But in terms of your first question, the board, that was their frustration, is that there's all this money sitting in the north. There are very good projects, people coming to them saying, please fund my project, and they have to say no to some very good projects. And so that was largely the discussion at the board. And I will say this issue has come up a couple times in the past that I'm familiar with, and it was more contentious. In this case, the board voted unanimously for this recommendation. And so I think some of that versus conversation, at least in terms of the board, did not come up this time like it did last time this issue came up.
And I repeat that, Tommy, because, again, when I was president of the Tiers Board, the people on the Tiers Board who represented the North, if you will, who lived in the North, agreed during the Tiers meeting to fund a project. But when it came time for them to show up at city council meetings and speak towards their support of it, they did not show up and would not speak. So it's one thing when they vote in a Tiers board meeting to do it. It was another when it came before city council, because they knew they would get backlash on it.
Well, it just seems to me we need to start talking with one another rather than at one another over this issue. We're not competing here. This is for the city of San Angelo. This
Yes,
is for
but remember, the city council at that point in time made it.
Oh, I know they
versus,
did, Brenda.
and that's
but,
the problem
But
from
I
the
don't
beginning.
I don't get that sense from this council. So maybe we can take maybe we can take a little of the heat out of this. To me, this shouldn't be a contentious issue. I mean, this is for the entire community.
Because it's already been created, you'll never get away with it. That's the problem. It's become that.
Maybe this council needs to be willing to bear that heat to try to make it as equitable as possible. I'm not sure.
I think what we need to do is work with the citizens in the north and try to make them better understand how to utilize the money, because the issue has come forward because they're not utilizing the money. And if we can do a better job of educating those folks who live in the north and who are very upset that this conversation's going on about why it's going on. The funds are there. Don't you have something you'd like to do to your project? Look at the number of businesses on that entire north corridor. There's lots of businesses and lots of buildings that could use some improvement. And I think we, the city, would benefit from that. It is a highly trafficked corridor. And I think there was a belief that when the Texas Bank was built, which was a dramatic improvement to that corner, again, the thought was that more of would happen with that. What has happened, and they're very proud of it, is the number of new bank accounts that they've been able to create has been dramatic. And I know Mark McLaughlin, when they were discussing it, kept saying, I believe the citizens in the north deserve an opportunity to have a bank in the north. And people kept saying to him, they'll never do it, they're not going to come there, forget it, it's going to be a disaster. Well, they're very proud of what has happened with that bank. So there are things that can be done and things that can be improved. The streetscape program on the north is what, a 2-block area now? And then there's nothing. And maybe it's 3 blocks, and then there's nothing. The streetscape, if it continued to be improved up there, could make a big difference perhaps. Is that my 3-minute warning?
You've been warned.
Shut up, Brenda. Yeah.
Brenda, I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, I'm afraid it is.
That was brave of Julia. Oh my goodness.
Lucy?
I just had one question. Have you, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but have any north side businesses been rejected when they applied for the funds?
No, and in fact, I wanted to address one comment that's been made a couple of times about education, and I'll mention the economic development staff, particularly Shannon Scott, who's no longer here, but she did an educational component a couple of years ago and hand-delivered pamphlets to every business on the north side. And over the last 2 years, we've funded $1.2 million in north projects. And so I just don't want there to be the misconception that there aren't projects coming in from the north. In fact, we funded more north projects than south projects.
Yes, because you have the money.
It's just that we spend all the money in the south and we don't have any left. And even spending $1.2 million on north projects in the last 2 years, we've still got $2 million sitting there waiting. And so that's part of the frustration of the board and why they moved forward with this recommendation.
You just need to make one continual effort and one big effort to really educate, and then we can bring it back and talk about it. And it doesn't mean we won't support some level of doing it. We'll see. But we need to work hard on educating and making sure we have gotten people's attention in terms of what their opportunities are. Stephen, did you want to, since we're not doing a motion on this, because we don't need a motion, we will open it up for public comment.
Mayor, City Council, I'm Stephen Brown. I'm a member of the Tiers Board, appointed by the Tom Green County Commissioners Court. I don't know where to start. Oh, I'll say hello to Michael and Rick. Y'all are a lot grayer in the last 20 years, at least the 27 I don't have any hair. You still got yours. I think best way to start is from the beginning. When tiers were created, y'all know it was one zone. Personality and politics made it two. And that's not San Angelo. We're all San Angelo. Tiers was created to enhance the tax base for the city and the county, and to mitigate and to stop deterioration of blight and dilapidated structures. And frankly, the Tiers Board is frustrated. I am, and you see by the motion that was made and recommended to you unanimously to combine the funds, because we can't fund the South projects without going through that 3/4 deal. So we just said, let's fish or cut bait. Let's see what they want to do. But I think you need to go back and do a little history. One of the reasons that the South is out of the money is because of the notable project we've done downtown for landscaping and streets and lighting. And that doesn't enhance necessarily the tax base, but it benefits the whole town. Let's assume that that street project that's been done downtown and the landscaping and all the pretty stuff, let's assume it was done in the north. The north would be out of money now. Why? Because the South is paying back the city the almost $2 million over the next few years. You paid off about half of it. When we did the street project, you borrowed the money from the city general fund or some fund, and the South's paying it back. So that's why the South's out of money right now. We don't lack for projects in the north. As John said, we've spent $1.2 million over the last few years. And you don't have an issue with having projects come to the board. What you have an issue is that we're out of money, and a town hall meeting is great, but it's not going to change the fact, guys and girls, that we're out of money in the South. So why not put it all together and not have a South and a North? Let's have a San Angelo. I've talked to the county judge, and the judge concurs in the motion that was made by the board. He says we're here to enhance the tax base and stop deterioration and blight of our commercial facilities. So I certainly recommend that y'all consider that and come up with a solution, because if you don't, we're going to be right back here next week, next month. We're going to recommend funding South projects out of North money. At least I'm going to be, and I bet you the rest of the board will too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. Any further public comment? Go ahead and state your name again, please.
I'm Bria Burke.
You can bring the microphone down so you can talk better.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
I'm not a professional at this.
That's okay.
So I'm Bria Burke again. I just have a question. So how were the borders determined?
There was a process, because when you try to create a tiers, you have to go through and start to define the areas, and then look at the amount of residential that's in there versus non-residential, because it's very specific in terms of the percent of residential versus non-residential. So the state requires, and that's the reason it costs money. That's the reason Downtown San Angelo Inc. had to come up with $30,000, because we had to hire somebody to go through and start the work on what the tiers would be, north versus south. So that's how it was created, and it had to be done by a professional. It had to be presented to the state of Texas as these are the defined areas.
Okay. The reason why I ask is because my address is in North Chadbourn, but I'm in the south.
Yes.
Tiers by like 50 feet south, and it's on North Chadbourn. So that was my curiosity, is how that was determined, because, and I mean, yeah, it just makes sense that it would be all one funding, and I'm not sure how my other question was like, how do you get to the north people to just walk up to them and say, hey, we have these programs?
We'll be doing some block walking.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. You've been patient with us, and we appreciate you being here and asking comments. But the decision, when it was made to determine the north versus the south, they went through 2 or 3 different scenarios and looking, because if you look at that map, it kind of has these funny little things on it. And again, it's depending on residential versus whatever, and then, but anyway, it had to be approved.
This is more of an interest as a citizen than a battle between whether I get money or not. I'm just curious about how it's all laid out. So thank you for letting me.
We're glad
be
you're here.
part of it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Good
Morning. My name is Tom Maurer. I am a member of the Tiers Board. My view, I think the best thing that can be done for the Tiers Board is to not have a north and a south, to have the fund, and then the Tiers Board, it's our responsibility to look at the projects and to determine what projects should be funded and what shouldn't. Maybe we need more regulation in the Tiers Board to do a better job of that, if that's the case. But this business of north and south, once Shannon was out of the picture, the south was handicapped already. And so since that time, it's been a north versus south. The way to get rid of it is get rid of north and south and keep the money in the fund and have the Tiers Board with proper regulation that we can make the proper decisions for funding projects when it's needed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning.
I'm Yolanda Franco, and I am the proud owner of Western Sky Steakhouse on the north side. I want to tell y'all my story. So in 2017, I received Tiers money. I did it because we had a customer that would get out of her car because we looked so ugly. We looked ugly. As a matter of fact, they thought we were a strip joint. So we decided to redo our building and whatnot. And it helped my business immediately, just changing the facade, and I thank the Tiers Board for it. It helped me a lot. Not only did it help me save money to do the inside. So if you haven't been there, this is a little plug for me. Come and see us. We are very beautiful. So on the inside and the out. But my fear is if we do pull the money together, which I totally understand. I understand the logic, but my fear is if we pull the money together, we all know how downtown, everyone downtown with Escape, with the landscaping that y'all all done, the city has done and everything. My fear is that there won't be any money when I apply and when my neighbor applies and these people are low-income people. I mean, they need the money. You know, we are trying to look beautiful. I've talked to a lot of residents in the north side, and I think that, you know, keeping it divided, you know, it is not a popular choice. And it's not, I'm not being contentious about it. I'm not saying we need to be them against us, north against south. I'm not saying that. I just think that because, you know, there's so much going down and the people downtown, obviously, they have more financial means behind them. You know, the little lady next to me that has a burrito place, she's getting ready to move across the street. They don't have that. So I think that if your consideration to keep it separate, you know, if you would consider that, I think that would help the north. And I think that you're on the right road to doing a town hall meeting, walking, you know, because these people don't understand. I've talked to them. They don't understand it. They don't understand that, you know, they don't trust people. And not that they don't trust them, but they're going, okay, what's the catch? That's what they're saying. What's the catch? You know, is that my time?
Ignore it. It's
okay.
just going off.
Do I need to stop? I can talk as long as you, Brenda.
I'll take you on. We'll see.
But they're going, what's the catch? What you know, they're not going to give me free money. That's what they're saying. You know, so an explanation is going to help. Now, I will do my part, being on the north side, to rally all these people up to come to this town hall meeting.
We'll utilize you because I think your voice and because that is where your business is, you can help us get people to the meeting that might not otherwise come because they'll
Right.
see it as the city of San Angelo and they won't come because of that. So I'm going to need you to really work with us to get a lot of people there to talk about all of this.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay,
and
that would be
I
great,
will,
Yolanda.
I will definitely do my part, but I just ask that you make a consideration to keep the money divided.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
So can I ask her a
Yes,
question?
go
Before
ahead.
you leave, young lady, before you come back?
You had already thrown me under the bus, but go ahead.
So are you open for breakfast?
We do not open for breakfast because I can't get up that
So
early.
with that in mind, your restaurant would be a good place to have a town hall meeting in the morning so we don't do lunch and dinner and interfere with other ones like next Tuesday or something.
You
or
do
that.
happy hour.
Do what?
We have a full bar, but it won't be open, but yes.
Well, so I don't
no.
want to have a meeting, a town hall, and you and I have talked about this. I don't want to do it at lunch and dinner time and you look at those. So, you know, number one, we're looking for somewhere to have it. I strongly suggest a morning meeting and everybody kind of knows where you're at. So I do want to throw you under the bus as the target spot to maybe have one in the next week or two.
I'll be willing to host it. It's not a problem. Just let me know.
Great idea.
Is, are we gonna have snacks?
Onion rings for breakfast, okay?
Bring burritos.
We'll take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Yolanda.
Mayor, Council, my name is Del Velasquez. I'm the Executive Director for Downtown San Angelo. I have been on the Tiers Board as a non-voting member for 9 years. So I've seen the ins and outs of what we're talking about today. And I want to share some thoughts. For one thing, relative to the South, the funding that is accumulated through the Tiers Fund is statewide requirement that 30%, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I believe 30% is the fund number that is supposed to be spent on public funds. And traditionally, we've not kept up with that particular
Public funds,
mandate.
you mean for infrastructure issues?
For infrastructure, right, for public improvement projects. That is the requirement through the Tiers, when the Tiers Fund was set up, by the state, not by the city of San Angelo. The city of San Angelo is who determined the north and south, as we've already discussed. The other thing about the South, and I bring that up because I heard a comment that the reason the South is out of money is because of the public funds that are being spent on the improvements for downtown, which is not totally accurate. Number two, and this is inherent for every community in the United States of America. When a city was founded, all of the city government, and in our case, the county government, and guess what? Churches, especially in the South, were known as the Bible Belt. Churches were established in the downtown area. That's all we knew. That's all that was around. And so inherently, we have a lot of non-taxable property in the downtown South area, South Zone. Downtown San Angelo, part of our requirement back to the city is to track and monitor all the vacant and underutilized buildings. We do that yearly. And I'm gonna probably get this wrong because I know there's been some demolitions, but there's about 340 something buildings in the Central Business District. When I started in 2007 as the executive director, we were at about 110 vacant buildings. Today, we're down to about 52. But still, the taxable percentage of buildings and properties, non-taxable, is about 46.2% of properties in the Central Business District do not pay taxes. So that's another impact that has our imbalance in terms of the funds between the two zones. I just want to reiterate again, it's a one zone, folks. It's not split. We decided that on our own. Thank you. If you have any questions.
No, that's it. Stephen, you can only speak once. We can't redo, it wasn't, all right. With that, I think, do we need to take a vote from the council?
No, we already did. We're good, Mayor. We got direction.
Come on up, Adrian.
Senor Chang's coming.
Come on.
My name is Adrian. I
Glad you're
have a
here today.
business. Okay, I have a business in North San Angelo called Senor Chang's. I'm really excited about the town hall. I think that is great. I think that's what needs to happen. People need to be, I hope that we can rally enough people where the conversations can be had.
If we need to do two, will you host one as well?
It's not big enough, but I would definitely take people in,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you. It's nice weather.
Parking lot is big enough, yes. I guess I wanted to talk about, like, I understand the whole is one thing and it became political. My fear is that if we do just create it as one again, I don't think the politics stop. It's just, we're going to say that we fixed it this way, but there's still going to be politics that continue on within boards and friends, and all that stuff happens. It's the ugly truth. So I don't believe that that's a fix to it. My fear is there's a lot of questions that I have, and I'm like, I wish I had more information on like who the people who received the tiers is, how many people have received it multiple times, because I know there's developers who understand how this works and they see the benefits to it, which is when I moved my business from
Howard?
Right on Van Buren to North San Angelo,
Yeah.
tiers was the reason. I was able to see the impact that would have like financially for me, that I would have equity in my building immediately if I just took on this project and the city was going to help me. So I see South part, the downtown area, a lot of the developers are making, I mean, they've done a great job with downtown. I'm not saying it's not being used wrong. It's the downtown area looks great, but North San Angelo is still not getting it done yet. And if we're starting to see an impact, they said we've done $1.2 million in the last 2 years. That's great. I wonder what it was before. So based on that number, we would fall short already with people still, and I've talked to the same people. They don't understand how it fully works yet. They think there's issues, the what ifs. So I think that number could continue to grow. And if we took the funds right now and said, all right, here's 1 million here, here's 1 million here, I think we would eventually run out of funds as well. And I think we need those funds to incentivize people to take on projects in North San Angelo. So I'm advocating for North San Angelo because, not because it's north versus south, it's not that for me. Like, I travel, I do business in downtown San Angelo, love to eat down there, but I also travel North San Angelo a lot, and residential areas are growing like crazy in North San Angelo, and the businesses are starting to go there, but they haven't yet, and I fear that if you take away those funds, that would have impacted other people to develop there or to rehab, then it just slows the growth of what's going to happen down there. So I won't get into the saying that the tiers funds is the reason the South ran out, because I don't believe that the way it was. I think it was TxDOT funds that were used for the downtown area.
A combination of funds
Right.
that came from multiple resources, and one was a grant, yes.
Was
One
tiers
was
a
big
part of
grant. Tiers was a part of it, COSA-DC was a part of it.
Okay.
It was
I wasn't aware of
multiple
that.
sources.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, anyhow, but that's the reason I don't want to see it separate into big one, because how much of it's going to be used in the downtown district and how much of it's really going to be used there, and then it turns into more people applying. I'm sure there's more people applying for the total funds that are being done than we're able to allocate, like to give out to people. And then the politics coming back. Who's going to get more? Who's going to get less? So I don't think that problem goes away. I think we should keep it split. I think the funds should not go back to I think the $2 million should not be split.
We have a lot of work we need to do,
Yeah,
and
anyways,
we'll count on you to
conversations.
help us get it done, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.
Mayor, we have our direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. One last comment.
Susie Smith, and I'm in Larry Miller's district. And the question I have is this not part of, when you run as a city council person, that you're running to advocate for the area that you represent? And so would that not be up to the city council member to kind of, take the ball and run with it for the area that we're talking about? And
And they're going to help us do this.
yes, and I
Yes.
think that the discussion that has, developed and what he shared, that we're moving in the right direction on that to get it. But that was just the question that came to me. Isn't that what you all run for, to advocate for your area?
Thank you, Susie. All right, we have direction, and so at this point, we will move into closed session. Executive session on the provision of Government Code Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government, Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to requirement that meetings be open under the following sections. Section A, 551.072, deliberations about real property regarding 1, 2.3762 acres, Fisher and Miller, Survey 0173, Abstract 0205, and 2, 17.583 acres, Lot 9D, Block 2, Section 9A, Red Arroyo Hills Edition, and then B, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding, you guys, I'm trying to talk, please. Consultation with attorney regarding contract for judicial services at municipal court. We are now adjourned for our closed session. This meeting back to order, and then we'll discuss further business if you don't mind. Just give us a couple minutes, sir. This will be really fast, and then we can let all the other council members leave if you don't mind. So at 11:48 a.m., we will call the council meeting of March 15th back to order. Item 8 on the agenda is the follow-up and administrative issues, and consider items discussed in executive session is item A. And Tommy, do you have an announcement, please?
Yes, Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve the contract for judicial services at the municipal court.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Harry. Any public comment on the item? With none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. It passes 6-0. Announcements and consideration of future agenda items. Are there any?
Mayor, I
If
do want
none- well,
just one thing. Our strategic priority setting workshop, I'm looking at, I'll coordinate with y'all, but we're looking at April the 11th through the 15th, or last year we did it in May.
Yes,
But-
we need to do it in May.
Okay, we'll schedule for May.
April's
So we'll-
too early.
We'll coordinate with all of you then,
Yeah,
so.
that's
okay,
too early.
Good deal.
All right, with that, may I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll move.
And any public comment concerning that? With none, may we vote? All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 11:49 a.m. on March the 15th.